Hi friends, welcome to Voice for Public Sector YouTube channel. The Union government has decided to introduce a banking laws amendment bill in the ongoing winter session. The purpose of the bill is to reduce the government stake in the public sector banks from 51% to 26%. The second purpose is to privatize two public sector banks, which was already announced by the finance minister in the 2021 budget. The bill is aimed for this dual purpose, and the employees and officers are on warpath, and they have decided to protest against this bill. And they have planned to go for 2 day strike on 16th and 17th of December this year. We have with us a very veteran trade union leader, Comrade C.H. Venkatachalam, the General Secretary of All India Bank Employees Association. IIBA is one of the pioneer organizations in the trade union movement in India today. So we welcome Comrade C.H. Venkatachalam. Welcome, Comrade CHP.
Welcome.
We want to hear from you. What will be the impact of this bill if the bill gets passed in the parliament? What will be the impact on the banking industry and also on the common man in the country today?
See, the main impact of bank privatization in India can be understood very in a simple way because the banks are dealing with public money. Today, the banking industry, all banks put together, and they are dealing with public savings to the tune of 157 lakh crores. That is almost 75% of the total GDP of the country. That is the vastness of the money available in the banks. And if banks are privatized, the huge money will go into the hands of private vested interest corporate people. That is the maximum danger because India is a developing country. And in a developing country, we need resources for development, long term development, medium development, immediate projects, so many things. And for resources, government can depend on taxation to some extent and also the government revenue, and to some extent they can take loan, borrow also. But the public savings, people's saving, is a huge social capital for a developing country, and India has developed in all these 70 years only through that. And now that channel will be cut because the private people who will own the bank, they will try to use this bank for their own whims and fancies, for their own greed and profit making. So the government will be the sufferer, the country will be the sufferer, the economy will suffer, the people will suffer. That is the impact. There are other impacts on employment, all those things. But the main impact is public savings will go into the wrong hands of private sector.
You said that the public savings will go into the wrong hands. So common people will also be affected because the deposits in the public sector banks, 70 to 80% belong to the common people and the middle class of this country. So if this middle class, if they are deprived of the savings or if they are not able to go to the public sector banks, today we saw Citibank which gave the advertisement when they came to India. City never sleeps. Now City permanently sleeps in India. So these type of banks are also exist in India. So, what will be the future of the banking industry if it continues to privatize, if the government continues to privatize the public sector banks?
Yeah. I told you the one impact is the danger to the savings of the people. Danger in the sense that money will go into the wrong hands of the private people. But equally important, number one, safety for people's money. Today we are opposing privatization, not because we don't like Mr. Modi, not because we are opposed to BJP ideology, not because of any dogma. It is our practical experience in the bank employees movement in the All India Bank Employees Association. In the 1940s, 1950s, hundreds of banks they collapsed, all private banks because of mismanagement, financial irregularity, and wrong policies adopted by the management. And when the banks collapse, the people lost their money. That is a danger. So once again, if the banks are privatized, the same danger will come. And at that time, it was a very small amount. But today, I told it is a huge amount. So number one, the risk. Secondly, we have seen by experience, government bank, public sector bank means safety for the people's money. That is guarantee. Because in India, with great difficulty, people save. It is not that everybody is affluent and they have surplus money and they save. In India, the saving is a psych that for future, they try to reduce their today's expenditure and try to save for tomorrow because that is in our own Indian tradition. So the saving is very important to be guaranteed, that risk will come because private people will misuse the money and people will lose. Second is the development mean it must again reach the segments of the economy which are either to not developed or underdeveloped or backward. Even today, India is not a highly developed country. So for development, there are important segments. For example, from 1969, after nationalization, banks are deploying the deposit as credit for agriculture, employment generation, poverty reduction, rural development, infrastructure, exports, and then self-employment scheme, women empowerment, health, education. All these sectors were backward and they were never bothered by the private banks. So today, if the banks are privatized, the same position will continue. That means this priority sector today will again become neglected sector. So that means they will say that GDP is growing, India is growing, but these sectors will be neglected. That means at the cost of the majority of the people, at the cost of the real sectors, there will be an imaginary growth which will benefit only the upper elite sections or the capitalists of this country. So these are the two dangers. Number one, risk for the people's money. Number two, the deployment will be only for their own benefit. The real needy sectors will be neglected.
Government says that the real reason for privatization is the NPA, the mounting of NPAs, and they have started in bad bank also to see that the NPAs are transferred to the bad banks. If that is the real reason, how will the banks will overcome this NPA in the future?
See, first of all, NPA is inevitable incidence to banking. If I give 100 loans, some loans will not come. That is a risk always attached to banking business. So NPA, today they say NPA. Earlier it was bad and doubtful debts, then bad loans. Now they say non-performing assets. It's a liability, but they say anyway it's a NPA. That is one thing. But here the point is, in the last some 20, 30 years, banks like this, commercial banks have existed in our country for 100 years almost, no, more than 100 years. Most of the banks are, they have celebrated their centenary. So in 100 years, NPA was not a problem. The same risk was there. In the last 30 years, after liberalization, because the banks are dealing with public money, there must be proper stipulation, proper regulation, proper compliance, etc., monitoring. In the name of liberalization, the bank policies have been liberalized. Reserve Bank is supposed to monitor the whole thing. Now they are compelled or they are being forced to totally liberalize, and with the result today, the loans are becoming easily banned. And which loans? Banks are given long-term loans. See, one thing in the bank, the deposits are short-term and medium-term, because nobody will invest in a bank for 25 years. Maximum 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 years. Beyond that, people will not. So the money is short-term money. But we lend because India is a developing country and public sector banks are responsibility for development. So we lend in long-term projects which will yield only after 20, 30 years. So already there is a mismatch between assets and liabilities. That is one technical. But using this, some corporate people, they have taken huge loans. The most famous NPA is that Kingfisher Malaya. He has taken some 9,000 crores. He's a rich man. If he understand that Kingfisher airline did not earn profit, he could not repay the money, we can understand. He is a rich man, company doing well, and he misused and mismanaged the whole thing. And he is deliberately not repaying, and now he is sitting jolly well somewhere. So, like that, we can list out deliberate, willful defaulters. So, what we are telling, see, agriculture, we give loan. That also will become NPA. If there is no rain, then harvest will be a problem. So, the loan taken by the farmer, he cannot repay. Somewhere electricity is not there. Somewhere irrigation is a problem. Similarly, small scale industry, medium industry, they take loan and produce something. Suddenly technology changes, market changes, and their business will be affected. They are not able to repay. Somebody is taking, say, retail loan, housing loan. He is now working in a good company, IT company. So banks are giving, say, 1 crore. He buys a house. And suddenly the IT recession and then the company closes. That man loses job. So that also becomes NPA. Similarly, education loan we give. for the people. And they get educated. After that, they don't get job. So how do they repay? So education loan becomes NPA. So NPA is, in a way, we should understand the two different things in NPA. Number one, the genuine NPAs. But what we are concerned today is the deliberate bad loans. Big people, they take the loan and then they cheat. And instead of taking action, the one thing peculiar in our country is, otherwise small amount, if it is defaulted or somebody cheating, it is covered under section 420 of the Criminal Procedure Act. It becomes a criminal action. If I take some 1,000 rupees from somebody and I do not pay, then that man can file a complaint to the police against me for section 420 criminal action. But I have taken 10,000 crores money from a bank, deliberately I am not repaying the money. That is a civil case. So civil cases are filed and it goes on civil suits for 10 years, 20 years. That too, the complaint is filed in the name of the company. We give money to Kingfisher not because of the company, because Malaya is involved. He's a big corporate man. He is man of means. He will repay. But the case is filed against Kingfisher company. So the case goes on. So what we are telling from the All India Bank Employees Association, such willful default cases must be categorized as criminal offense and criminal action should be taken, particularly the person who is responsible, on whose strength we have given the loan. Then action can be taken. But that one small one line amendment, this government is very famous for everyday amendment. For everything they will give, there's an ordinance. But here, a small sentence is to be changed. Reserve Bank, they have to say those who deliver, because there is a definition what is a willful default. Somebody is taking money from the bank, deliberately is cheating, is misusing. The end use is not proper. These are all categorized as willful defaulters. So willful default will be termed as criminal offense. One line amendment. Reserve Bank can do, government can do, they are not doing. On the other hand, they are going on improvising the recovery laws. We are telling you take stringent measures, strengthen the recovery laws. Earlier DRT, that has become teethless surfacey, big fishes are not caught. Now they brought IBC and they said no, all the big fishes will be caught. But now the big people, they are standing in queue. Sir, please declare me a defaulter. Please declare me as an insolvent. Because what is the real story? I go to the insolvency court, NCLT, the tribunal, saying that I am not able to repay. I have taken some 20,000 crores of money. So kindly do something. So the tribunal, they are auctioning and somebody is willing to buy. For example, this Sivasankaran Industries, very famous in Tamil Nadu also, he has taken 4,000 crores of loan. He is a big industrialist, but he has cheated the banks. Now that went to the that NCLT tribunal, IBC, and he said I can't repay. So that was auction. His own father-in-law, he said I will take over this loan for 320 crores. So the banks have agreed. Now he has given 320 crores and then he is the owner of that industry. So from son-in-law to father-in-law, 4,000 crores has been sold for 320 crores. And our dear finance minister says, I have recovered 320 crores. It is my government, BJP government, Modi government has recovered 320. But what is the real thing that is to be told to the parliament is, out of 4,000, I got 320 crores. That means 3,680 crores is a loss. So this is the jugglery. I have given you only one example. I have so many examples. So money is not being recovered, NPA is not being recovered, and they are only trying to say that NPA is the problem. NPA is a problem because of liberalization. Let them tighten the Reserve Bank rules, then naturally NPA will come down. There is no problem.
But whatever you said is applicable to private banks also. How do they manage with the NPA?
All private banks, they are purely commercial banks. They match their assets and liabilities very carefully. If they have a 1 year term liability, then the loan portfolio also will bear 1 year. If they have deposits of 5 years, then they give the loan for 5 years. They don't, invest money in this infrastructure, long-term projects at all. They are into retail because the investment is only for 3 to 5 years. Their loan portfolio is also like that only. Even in private banks also there are NPA. But such huge NPS will not be there because they are not exposed to this long-term credit, infrastructure credit. Let them give. I give a challenge. ICICI Bank or any private bank, let them also have the same share of infrastructure lending like nationalized banks. Within 5 years, I will give in writing, the same NPA will be there. Because the borrower is a cheater. Whether it's a private bank or a government bank, his intention is to cheat. He is not getting such huge loan from private people. He is taking from the government because government is compelled to expand the economy. Economy has to grow. Infrastructure has to be built up. So these people are misusing that and they are taking huge loan, and that must be with the connivance only because there is always an excess. Those who take the loan, they have an excess. There is a political nexus, corporate nexus, and even some top bank executives we have seen, they have been arrested also. So it's a big political game that is going on to swindle the people's money for their own benefit. NPA is only a name. Actually, it is a loot, daylight robbery. Earlier Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha, he told it's a daylight robbery. That's a fact. That openly, they in the name of loan they take money, and wantonly they, don't repay, and then they say it's NPA, and that is being sold for a very, cheap amount. Now, earlier it started with 20% discount, 30% discount. We were wondering. But now that has become better. Now it is 60, 70, 80, 90%. In some other cases, 95% discount. Is it prudent banking? I give 100 crores and I will get only 5 crores. Whether that bank will survive? Government bank also cannot run like this. Government has to change their policy of appeasing the willful defaulters at the cost of the banks.
Finally, comrade, since 2014, when this government's current dispensation has come to power, there are a series of attack on the working class and the common people of this country. Is there any possibility for a trade union like AIVA to take the lead in unifying all the trade unions in the country to wage a struggle, a sustained struggle against the government's privatization policies?
See, right from Karl Marx and Lenin, they have repeatedly told that for worker the only way is to unite and fight. There is no second alternative, third alternative. So for India also is not an exception. And we have seen British was dividing. Now the managements are dividing. Government is also dividing. So it must be in the wisdom of the trade unions and the workers to stand united. Now one positive development is that compared to the past, 1960s, 1970s, even 1980s, central trade unions are moving together. Sectorally, trade unions are moving together. Even in banks, today we have the United Forum of Bank Unions. We are very proud that employees, officers, managers, senior officers, all are in one umbrella. Now 16th and 17th, the whole banking industry will come to a halt because the branches will not be open. Earlier, I used to think manager is my boss. But today he is also joining with me in the strike. So employees, officers, all are facing the same problem. All are being exploited. Attacks are there on everybody. And everybody has a common collective responsibility to resist the liberalization, globalization, privatization, the retrograde policies, etc. And we are very proud that in banking industry we are together. In many sectors it is coming together. And at the national level, all central trade unions, they are moving together, and we have to strengthen. And the time must come, one union, one industry. Because we have seen in the last 50, 60 years that division does not help. United action is a good beginning, but united action cannot be the end. United action must end, or it should result in the unity of the entire workers under one banner. Similarly, for the entire working class also, there should be one trade union. When all are fighting together, there is a common cause. And if the workers' interest is really the issue, then everybody must change their line and come forward to, come together. And we have seen in the independence struggle, trade unions were together, workers played a very important role, no doubt. The great movement under the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, was leading the struggle, but nobody can minimize the contribution of the struggle of the workers in the trade union. So once again now, when the economic disparities are increasing, exploitation rampant, even there is a danger to economic sovereignty, I think once again we should now understand, perceive the present development as a threat to our whole country's future, and all must come together, and trade unions have to play the role. If we come together, people also will come together. So I believe that the immediate task is, number one, to fight the present policy, number two, to really become united under one banner in the trade union.
Thank you, comrade. Thank you for your sparing your
Thank you.
time. Wish you success in your struggles, comrade.
Thank you.
Thank you.